we're gonna bring in one last guy, and this guy is one of the most important foundational publishers in the direct market, in my opinion. Outside of guys, I think Gary Groth is definitely one of those guys too, but also not too many people more than Mike Richardson, founder and publisher of Dark Horse Comics. I know you guys are friends, or at least you're friendly, and you've talked before, but Mike, what do you want to ask Steve about today in regards to your relationship with
and it can't be about the Yankees, because I'm going to say something nasty if you do.
Well, I'm sorry about your Orioles.
There he goes. We all are. Hey, we're undefeated right now. I just want you to know that.
Yeah, I think the virus is the best thing that happened for the Orioles.
And we're doing it with a lesser payroll.
Yeah. So, look, there's a couple things. As a publisher, so I'm a publisher and a retailer. So, we started out as a retail store back. I opened the first store in January 1st, 1980. Moved to Bend, Oregon, where we didn't know anyone, so that I can get away from my basketball buddies and focus on business. And we opened the store. So we were around during the rise of the direct sales market. And by the time we started Dark Horse, by the time Randy Stradley and I put out our first book, I think there were 19 comic book distributors at that time, if I remember correctly. And, we watched them disappear one by one. So when people ask, why did we go in an exclusive with Diamond? Well, we looked around to see where we were going to get paid was one of the big things, because we got stuck a number of times with distributors disappearing on us. So we want to get paid. Of course, in those days, we needed to get paid to stay alive. And we saw a big collapse. So everyone who was in the industry back then, I know Gary will remember, we saw the Black September when all the black and white publishers literally went out of business overnight. We were one of the ones that survived. So distribution was always important to us, and we had seen a lot of changes in it. So just going back to what you were talking about, Steve, we wanted somebody we knew. You and I have been friends for a long time, and we wanted to go someplace that was strong so we could get paid and pay our creators and make sure our books were going to get out properly. So that was Diamond. And we watched it go from 19 down to 1. That was an interesting evolution of the market. Questions, as a publisher, one of the questions I have is, of course, we're all concerned about the strength of the direct sales market and the strength of the retailers. I'm curious how the FOC went on Monday, whether you guys were satisfied with that. And also about, you're in the position to know what the strength of the retailers are out there. We know that a good portion of the retailers, as a retailer and as a publisher that's traveled around and met with retailers, I know that a lot of them, they don't have big bank accounts to get through these kinds of situations, these kinds of times. And I wonder how you would be in a position to know, Diamond would be in a position to know how these retailers are going to get through this. Do you see any substantial attrition in the marketplace, in the direct market? And, and I'm curious if retailers were able to take advantage of the PPP program that the CARE Act was offering.
Well, I would like to start off by saying, as it relates to the retailers, I don't want to understate or overstate their financial condition, but I do think it varies, obviously, but it's not only, I think, better. I'm not sure how many were able to participate in the PPP, because a lot of that is, if you've seen the backup on that, it's incredible. Even now with a second replenishment, it seems like there's still going to be hundreds of thousands of people shut out. But as you know, Diamond, whether by choice or by default over the years, has been happy, I will say, to be the bank of the industry to the degree we can afford to be. One of the good things that came with consolidation was our receivables became much higher collected, because there wasn't the hop, skip, and jump retailer who couldn't pay this guy. And in a lot of cases, it was just legitimate and it wasn't timed or whatever. But some cases, you had some retailers that are gone by the wayside now that would stiff, for lack of a better word, a distributor and call the other distributor who wanted volume, was stupid enough to take it on. We also fell victim to that at times too. So now, even though you could argue, well, the guy's got to pay Diamond because if he doesn't, he's going to get cut off. It isn't as black and white as that, because we do care about our retailers, and we have had, if it was the old circumstances and we knew they could run and jump and do things like that, we might have had a different approach. But we take the mantle of responsibility. Part of what we do is to support retailers, not just by giving them their product on time, giving them information about the product on time, but also financially. So when they get in trouble, to me, an account who's paid me on time for a long time, then gets in some trouble for a period of time, and we can help them get through it, we do it. And we've had tremendous happy ending stories where we've got accounts that if you looked at them over a period of 20 years, somebody else might have pulled the plug. We're so happy we didn't, because they survived, and we need every retailer that there is to keep this volume going. Now, in light of what you're asking about going forward, I will tell you this: the FOCs that you referenced have been coming in better numbers than we thought. We budgeted very carefully for our cash flow projections to anticipate what percentage of last year's volume on a week-to-week, month-to-month basis we would expect. And happily, the numbers are coming in stronger. And I am going to predict to you right now that in addition to what maybe are conservative FOC adjustments, we're going to see those books sell out, and they're going to probably order more, because I think it goes back to the consumer. The consumer has that pent-up desire to get the product they missed. And maybe off-the-rack sales, if you're a store that's dependent on impulse sales, that's a little harder. It kind of goes back to the restaurant analogy. You didn't buy it from my store, but you found it somewhere else. And in this case, I think the rack sales might suffer, those who are dependent on that. But the people who have subscription services, pull and hold, they're going to probably recapture a great bit, if not a high percentage, of the volume that was deemed to be potentially lost. So from a retailer's perspective financially, while I don't have totally privy to their daily finances or their bank account, I think they're stronger than people give them credit for. It'll vary from account to account. But there goes back to the positivity. If a retailer believes that he's going to have a tough time and acts like he's going to have a tough time, it's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. I think if a retailer gets creative, and we know we've got some great creative retailers, some entrepreneurial people who find a way, despite, I used the comparison last time about 2008 when mega billion-dollar companies like Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns and WAMU and all these other companies went out of business. Here was the little comic book retailer still surviving because he found a way to make it work. So, Mike, I can give you some pretty reasonable reassurance that in the chain from a publisher standpoint of how do you get paid? You get paid by Diamond, and you need Diamond to get paid by the retailer, and the retailer, of course, needs to generate business. I think we're in good shape.